Hey guys, thank you so much for coming by today. We're outside in the front because we're going to show you how to propagate some of our walking iris. Walking iris is a really easy plant to grow, and they only require indirect but bright light. They can withstand a couple of hours of sunlight, but early in the morning. I planted quite a few of them out front over these last couple of months, and they were all starting to bloom for me. So they look a little rough because we've been getting a lot of rain lately, and I have to come out here and clean all my garden beds up, clean all the dead foliage off. But after they start flowering, you can see they push off these little offshoots. Eventually this offshoot's going to elongate and hang on the ground, which is why it's called a walking iris. So these little flowers right here, this is a flower that kept flowering, not this in my hand, but this behind it. You can see this little dead piece. That's where that flower comes off of. So that died, it's done blooming, and then you're left with a little offshoot. So we're going to show you guys how to propagate these little offshoots because they're really easy to do, and they propagate by either these little offshoots right here, we have 2 on them, or by separation. You can separate this plant. We have like 3 plants in the ground here all together. So if before I planted this, I could have separated this plant into like 3 and had 3 separate plants, but I wanted to plant them all together. This way we have a nice set of walking iris out front here. Let's go take a look at the containers we have growing in our lanai, because we have some growing in pots. Before we move down there, I want to show you this because this one's all the way on the end and I didn't see it. You can see how these shot down. So see how the other ones were sticking straight up and they didn't fall down yet? They will eventually fall down to the ground and then root in the ground, which is why they're called walking iris. This will lay on the soil there and then eventually grow some roots if you don't cut it off, and it'll just keep walking and walking and walking throughout your yard, which is pretty cool. We don't have any roots on here yet, as I can see, so we're just going to go ahead and cut some of these off and show you guys how to propagate. Let's go. I always like to wait for my offshoots to get about 4 to 6 inches big before I cut them. You can cut them when they're about 3 inches, but any shorter than that, I feel like they really just don't take off quick enough. We have one right here just starting on this plant. You can see it's just now peeking through, so we have quite a while to go. So this is one of the little guys we plucked from out front, and because he was laying on the ground, he does have a little root. So when I pulled that bottom off, because this bottom piece you want to take off. So this is like we just cut it, and these are all cleaned up already. This is that piece. So I take the flower off, we get that flower off of there, cut it off, then I just pull this bottom piece right off, that little leaf it was connected on. You want to hold this really firm at this point so it doesn't break off the bum of the plant. You want to leave the bum right here on and intact because that's going to push out a little root. You can see we have 2 that the bum fell off on, which will take a while to root and regrow this little hard piece on the bottom. It'll have to callus and harden over before it roots. But that's fine. We're going to be totally fine with those rooting in the soil. And this little guy had a root on it already, just laying on the soil. So that's pretty awesome that these root just by laying on the soil like that. And all I'm going to do is make a little hole right here and push it down until that root's covered and the bottom of that plant is covered. And that's it, you guys. We're going to water and keep it wet for a few days, and then we're going to treat it like a regular plant after that, especially that this one's rooted already. We're definitely going to keep some water in here right after we plant a couple of these up, and then we're just going to keep it moist for a few days, and then after that I just let the soil dry out completely to the bottom, and then I go ahead and water when it's time. We're going to get planting these up in another container. I don't want them all in one container. I think I'm going to put 3 in here, and then we also have these that we did a couple of months ago. So these are ready to be repotted. They're really big, and we have about 5 little offshoots we propagated in here a couple of months ago, and this is what you should expect them to turn into. You can see they rooted really well, and we have a huge root ball on all these plants, and we have to transplant now. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I really hope you enjoyed this little video and it helps you to take care of your walking iris and propagate them. See you next time. Bye-bye.